Dozens of Palestinian rockets launched from Gaza continue to fall in southern Israel today, causing injuries and damage. Israel says it has retaliated with airstrikes aimed at rocket launching squads. 4 Palestinians have died, including at least 2 militants. CNN senior international correspondent Sarah Seidner is joining us from Jerusalem right now. So, Sarah, what's going on?
Well, look, we've been watching an escalation in attacks from Gaza, rocket attacks, and then subsequent airstrikes from the Israeli military over the past couple of weeks, Wolf. But in the past 24 hours, there has been a serious escalation, an explosion, if you will, of activity. More than 70 rockets and mortars were fired into Israel, into southern Israel from Gaza in about a 14-hour period alone. 3 workers from abroad who were working on a farm on the Gaza border in southern Israel were injured. Seriously enough, they had to be taken to the hospital. And there are several areas, the Eshkelon area in particular, and the Eshkol Council region, they have told people not to go to school. They closed the schools, and there were several houses there damaged. Those 2 areas well within reach of rocket fire from Gaza. Hamas, the militant Gaza government, has basically spread out some of their leaflets to the people in Gaza, telling them that the rocket attacks were in retaliation for the killing of 2 of its members of its military wing from airstrikes by Israel. And it's an interesting point made because usually Hamas does not claim responsibility. They haven't been doing that. They've sort of taken a backseat since the 2008 military action by Israel. And so this seems to be some sort of confidence that we're seeing from Hamas. The reasons for it may be many. One particular reason might be that this week on Tuesday, the Emir of Qatar made a visit to Gaza, and he's the first Arab leader to go into Gaza since Hamas took over in 2007. Now, in retaliation for all of these rocket attacks, Israel has had more airstrikes and tank fire. A total of 4 militants have been killed in Gaza due to airstrikes, and 8 Palestinians injured. Wolf?
Sarah, I guess the fear is that this could escalate into something a lot more serious, indeed all-out war between Hamas and Gaza and Israel. How concerned are folks over where you are in Jerusalem?
You know, there's always concern about that. It hasn't been declared, but I want you to hear the response from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu after these rockets started coming into Israel by the dozens. He said, and I'm quoting here, "We didn't choose this escalation and we didn't invite it, but if it continues, we are prepared to undertake a much wider and deeper operation." His defense minister, Ehud Barak, talked on Israeli army radio this morning. He was less hawkish, saying that at the moment there is no need for escalation. However, the government will, of course, evaluate the situation, since he said that there have been more rockets falling in Israel. And as for how the Palestinian Authority sees the situation, the Palestinian chief negotiator Saeb Erekat had this to say just a couple of hours ago. Due to their illegal blockade, Israel remains the occupying power in Gaza. Therefore, we hold Israel fully responsible for any harm to our people there. But of course, they are not in charge in Gaza. Hamas is. Right now, the rockets have stopped falling. There is calm. The question is, for how long, Wolf?
Sarah Seidner reporting for us from Jerusalem. Sarah, thanks very much. The Middle East, as all of our viewers know, became a hot topic in the final presidential debate here in the United States. Let's dig a little bit deeper now with former Democratic Congressman Robert Wexler. He's the president of the S. Daniel Abraham Center for Middle East Studies and a strong supporter of President Obama. I saw you sitting next to the First Lady at that debate in Florida the other day in Boca Raton. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Middle East fallout from the debate, because what's happening now in Gaza, between Gaza and Israel, Hamas and Israel, it could have been related. It could have political fallout here in the United States. Bob Schieffer, the moderator, asked the president of the United States specifically if an attack on Israel should be seen as an attack on the United States. And the president said U.S. has Israel's back, but he didn't go far enough, some people suggest, in saying, yes, an attack on Israel is an attack on the United States. What do you say?
Well, effectively, Wolf, the president did say yes. He said that in every which way, an attack on Israel will be responded to by the United States of America. He could not have been more clear. Governor Romney essentially echoed President Obama's answer.
But he didn't flatly say yes. He just said the U.S. will have Israel's back. Bob Schieffer pointed out that the U.S. believes an attack on Japan is an attack on the United States. Attack on NATO allies is an attack on the United States. He didn't flatly say that an attack on Israel and rockets coming in to Israel from Gaza, that's an attack on Israel.
Of course, we have a treaty with NATO, and we have different obligations, legal obligations with respect to Japan.
Should the U.S. have that same legal treaty obligation with Israel?
I personally think it should. I think it should be, we should do everything we can to enhance Israel's security. And that's, in fact, what the president has done. As we speak, Wolf, 1,500 American military officers are in Israel participating in the largest joint American-Israeli exercise in the history of the state of Israel. That sends an incredibly strong message to those who wish to do Israel harm, whether it be in Iran or Hamas. And I think it's critically important, like your report shows, those rockets are coming over. Many of them are being intercepted by the Iron Dome system, which was funded largely by the United States with the initiation from President Obama. The United States and Israel have enjoyed the most significant degree of security cooperation in the history of our nation.
The other issue that came up in the debate, and Mitt Romney keeps pointing it out, that as President of the United States, the president did not visit Israel. He went there as a candidate. He went to Egypt, he went to Saudi Arabia, he went to Turkey, but he didn't have time, didn't want to go to Israel for whatever reason. He turned the question around and he said this in the debate. I'll play the clip.
You know, if we're going to talk about trips that we've taken, you know, when I was a candidate for office, first trip I took was to visit our troops. And when I went to Israel as a candidate, I didn't take donors. I didn't attend fundraisers. I went to Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum there, to remind myself the nature of evil and why our bond with Israel will be unbreakable.
So if he's in the neighborhood, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, he went to Iraq, why not visit Israel? Why didn't he go to Israel?
Well, Wolf, again, as you know, the most important aspect of our relationship with Israel is security. What the president said is absolutely...
I know, but why didn't... Because at the time, there was a lot of people asking serious questions. Why not visit Israel if he's in Egypt?
The president of the United States chooses his schedule. He went to Egypt to make a speech to the Muslim world. Of course, there are some that argue we were at war with the Muslim world. We were in war in Iraq, war in Afghanistan. Thankfully, Wolf, we're not at war. In fact, we're the strongest ally of the Jewish state. But let's put this in a historic context.
But I just want to report what I was told at the time, because I asked people at the White House, people in the Obama administration, why isn't he visiting Israel? And you know what I was told? He wanted to offer some tough love to Israel. Repeatedly, high officials were saying that to me because Israel, he wanted Israel to freeze settlement activity in East Jerusalem and the West Bank. It was a big issue with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and he wanted some space, as they say. And you were at some meetings with the president when he made that clear to you as well.
Well, it wasn't, that's just one side of the story, Wolf. What the president was seeking to do was extract from the Arab world, from the King of Saudi Arabia and others, different kinds of incentives to Israel so that Israel would feel more confident to offer those kinds of concessions. Concessions being offered by the Arab world, such as overflight rights and warming of relations.
Did you like the fact that he wanted to engage in what he described as tough love with the Israelis?
Well, he never described it in that terms to me.
Well, in the Washington Post reported in that first meeting in July of 2009 with Jewish leaders at the White House, the president is quoted as saying, look at the past 8 years during the Bush administration. During those 8 years, there was no space between us and Israel. And what did we get from that? When there is no daylight, Israel just sits on the sidelines, and that erodes our credibility with the Arab states. George Mitchell, who was the special Middle East negotiator, he said you had to have some a settlement freeze, you had to have some tough love, if you will.
No, he said we needed to have a settlement freeze along with concessions by the Arab world and a complete cessation of violence on the Palestinian side. But back to the issue of trips, which I think is very important, it needs to be put in context. President Obama has met with Prime Minister Netanyahu more than any other leader in the world. They have constant phone calls, not 5-minute calls or 10-minute calls, but 1 hour-long phone calls.
But you know what? This is the point I just want to make, and I'll let you respond. If he had gone to Jerusalem, he would have gone to Ramallah. He would have met with the Israelis. He would have met with the Palestinians. He could have shared his commitment to advancing the peace process, which is so important as a result of the failure over these past 4 years, there is no peace process right now.
Well, Governor Romney's criticism is hypocritical. Did Governor Romney criticize President Bush for not visiting Israel during his first term? Did Governor Romney criticize the first President Bush for never visiting Israel while he was president? Did Governor Romney criticize President Reagan? But President Reagan didn't visit Israel in his two terms.
But if he had a do-over, you think he should have gone?
I didn't say that,
Well, do you?
No, he visited Israel twice as a United States Senator. I have no doubt if he's reelected, he will visit Israel when the time is appropriate to achieve something meaningful. That's the key, to achieve something meaningful, to bring an end to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict on appropriate terms, to bring the Arab world to Israel in a way that is meaningful for Israel and its security and its economy.
All right. We got to leave it, unfortunately, right there, but it's a serious discussion. And I think historians who look back and report on the peace process or the lack thereof will probably say he had an opportunity there to address the Palestinians directly, address the Israelis directly. Instead, that whole tough love that came, some space he wanted with the Israelis, obviously it didn't exactly work out the way he would have liked, the way you would have liked and Israelis and Palestinians. Robert Wexler, unfortunately, I got to end it right there, but you're not going too far away. Thank you. We'll take a quick break. Much more news right after this.